Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for helping in. It's a great day for celebration, happy holidays. My name is Ransom. If you don't know me, I'm a medical student, study radiography, my third year, based in Nigeria. And apart from medical studies, I'm also a professional medical writer. I do a whole lot of writings, white paper writings. I do a whole lot of writings on medical articles, research-based project, scientific-based project for a couple of clients, and also a couple of pharmaceutical companies and a couple of healthcare companies out there. So today I'm here with an amazing personality today. So hey, Melissa, could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hi, yeah, sure. Thanks so much, Ransom. I'm Melissa Cohen, and I'm super excited to be here with you today. I work in the fashion industry. I work on product development and production on the manufacturing and sourcing side. And in the middle of the pandemic, I started my own consulting business. So I consult with different brands that need sourcing and product development support, and that's been super fun. And then you and I met on my favorite platform, which is LinkedIn. And I'm a huge proponent of LinkedIn, and I really enjoy working with people on LinkedIn presence and personal branding because I think so many of us underestimate the opportunities that are there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for that introduction. So, Melissa, I have a couple of questions for you to answer for the audience. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So, can you share some tips for people, looking to strengthen their presence or their personal brand and create a strong LinkedIn presence in their industry? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you just have to not be afraid, right? I know so many people who have this desire to be more visible on LinkedIn, but they're afraid. They're afraid that people aren't going to like what they have to say, that they're not going to get any reactions, that they're not going to get any comments. And I would just say you have to start somewhere, right? The first post I ever made, I was kind of terrified. I had the same fears, but I got some reactions. I got a comment or two. Someone even reposted it. I was very grateful. And you just build from there, right? What I really love about LinkedIn is that you get back what you put in. So if you put in effort, if you engage with other people, they are going to engage back with you. And I think that's really key. You can't just post something and then leave, right? We kind of call it post and ghost, right? If you just put a post up there and then that's it, people have no real motivation to engage with you. But if you post something and then you look at other people's content that interests you and you make a comment and you say something and you connect with people, they're going to return that. It's all energy that feeds on itself. So, my big advice is don't be afraid, just get started and engage with people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Engaging, networking, it's the goal, Don't just ghost people. Try to interact with people on LinkedIn, So, thank you so much for answering that question, Melissa. So, why did you choose the path you're in right now? What gave you the inspiration to tour to this path you're right now?
Yeah, I mean, I always was very interested in the fashion industry, right? Since I was a little girl, it was always fascinating to me. And I remember being in high school and we were visited by a college for fashion careers. And it talked about all of the different pathways that you could take in the industry, right? I think when people think of fashion, maybe they think about design or they think about merchandising. And those are definitely two career paths in the industry. But there are so many more. And so I ended up falling into product development and production, which is super interesting because I don't think the average person, like when you go and buy a piece of clothing, maybe you don't think about all of the steps that went into making that garment, right? Picking the fabric, picking, deciding on how it's going to fit. Is it going to be tight fitting? Is it going to be loose fitting? Is it going to be a crew neck, a V-neck, a button down, all of the things that go into making the style look the way it does. And then I really became very passionate about sustainability in the industry, right? Because unfortunately, fashion has an impact on the environment, right? There's a lot of environmental things that go into manufacturing, from water treatment to electricity to waste, right? A big challenge in the industry is overproduction. And then what happens with clothing when we're done with it, when we decide it, doesn't fit us anymore, or we just don't like it anymore, or it's past its end use. And so all of those things became really important to me. And I've definitely tried to go down a path of helping to be more sustainable when it comes to the industry. And LinkedIn, I kind of just fell into. So during the pandemic, I lost my job. And I realized how much of my own personal identity was tied up in that job, and how kind of lost I felt when I didn't have it anymore. And LinkedIn kind of helped me to find my own voice. And it also really helped me with connection, right? So in the pandemic, I live in New York City, and New York City was hit super hard by the pandemic. We had very restrictive lockdowns. And I was just honestly craving talking to people, right? I just didn't have that daily human interaction anymore that I had always had. Um, so that's kind of how I ended up where I am.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's amazing that you transitioned to this industry, and that's amazing, Melissa. That's really amazing. So, how do you manage stress in your industry?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's really important to take care of ourselves, right? We can get so caught up in work, and I'm definitely I'm prone to that, right? If something is bothering me at work, if there's a problem, I would kind of mentally replay it in my mind over and over again, and to the point that it could affect my sleep, it could affect my well-being. We have to have better habits. We have to set boundaries. We have to say, okay, at a certain point, that's it. Work is done. I'm going to focus on myself now. And it's really important to have good habits. One that I'm really working on is my sleep and getting enough rest, because it's very easy to get into that kind of hustle mentality, right? Where you're working 24/7. And in my fashion work, especially, I'm working with a lot of people that are international, right? I have a lot of interaction with people in Asia, which is a 12, 13-hour time difference for me. So I could stay up all night, emailing and
Yeah.
and WhatsApping my contacts back and forth, to solve problems. But that's not healthy. So it's really about setting a boundary, setting a cutoff time. I'm very interested also in mindfulness. I'm not the best. I can't, meditate for an hour at a time. But I do try to do like short meditations every day, especially in the morning, to kind of set a good intention for the day. And then a big one that I'm really working on as well is staying hydrated. I'm really guilty of not drinking enough water through the day, and it really does make a difference. I feel much better when I'm hydrated and well rested.
Okay. I love the part you said about meditations. Could you share some, a couple of meditation, tips you use daily for the audience
Yeah,
to also use?
yeah, sure. I mean, so I use an app. It's called Calm, Calm, and they just have short guided meditations. I definitely need somebody to like guide me. I'm not good at just kind of doing it in my own head. I like to listen to someone that, will tell you, will walk you through it, will walk you through the steps. And I really like meditations that involve breath work, that involve different breathing techniques, breathing at different paces, deep breathing, deep inhaling, long exhaling is very soothing and calming to me. And I think it really starts the day off well. And it can also really help me to fall asleep at night. There are definitely specific meditations and breathing exercises that you can do at night to help with sleep.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, wow, you've been an amazing speaker thus far, and that's amazing, Melissa. Thank you so much for answering those questions properly.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So, does environment affect your work in your industry? Because I could remember, um, speaking with a friend of mine, her name is Jennifer. She's a nurse and she's trying to transition into medical writing. And she said that majorly her friends that she's connected with is virtually, especially on LinkedIn, where she comes from, Canada. It's a small city in Canada. They don't really have people or personalities over there. Hey, I'm a writer. I'm this and that. So I want to get something straight from you. You're based in New York City? That's amazing. So does your environment affect your industry?
Oh, I think definitely. I mean, I think our environment and where we live will always have impact on anything that we do. New York's a very vibrant, bustling city. People from all over the world come here to live, to work, to visit. There's an energy here that I think is very special and unique. I think it definitely took a big hit during the pandemic. I'm happy to see that a lot of it has returned. I wouldn't say it's exactly the same, but
Yeah,
we have a lot of advantages here, a lot of really wonderful things. We have so much culture here. We have great museums, theater, restaurants, the ballet, the opera. And I think all of those things are really inspiring. And especially in a creative industry like fashion, where you're constantly seeking inspiration and, just things to spark something creative. New York City is one of the best, right? I mean, there's other great cities too, and there's other great cities for fashion, Paris, Milan, London. But I think absolutely, your environment and where you live can have great impact on your mindset, on your creativity, and on your work.
absolutely, absolutely. Could you share like examples of brands that you worked with and you were happy about?
Yeah, I mean, I've loved, enjoyed, and learned something from every brand that I've ever worked with, right? The brand I was with the longest was Ralph Lauren. I was there for a pretty long time, in totality, probably close to 12 years. And that is just a wonderful brand that taught me so much, because the product is so special and there's so much that goes into it. And I also think that, Mr. Lauren himself is just such a creative genius. It's really an incredible lifestyle brand. And, he will talk a lot of times about seeing life as a movie and wanting to create this movie set for people to be a part of. And I can see that, right? If you shop in a Ralph Lauren store, or you are familiar with the brand, it really is just something really special and unique. And it's not just apparel, but obviously that's what I worked on. And when you wear those clothes, you feel different. You feel like you're part of that lifestyle. I worked for a smaller brand also, called Best and Company, which unfortunately is no longer in business. But that was also just very special, um, children's apparel that was just for very like special occasions, beautiful fabrics, very well made. It really taught me a great appreciation, for fabric, right? For recognizing that that's the most important thing in a garment. There's two really important things in a garment: fabric and then workmanship, right? Is it well made? Is it made to last? Is it well sewn? Is it well crafted? You don't want the buttons falling off. You don't want seams to open. You want it to be really well made. But it was really just an education in fabric, and yarn and texture, and really realizing how much that impacts how something feels when it's on your body, right? Is it soft? Is it not itchy? Is it comfortable? Does it move when you move? Really important things. And then I worked for Ann Taylor for a number of years, which is a women's brand. And so that really taught me a lot about fit, right? And how fit is important. If something doesn't fit well, you're not going to feel good in it, right? As a consumer, if you buy something and it's not flattering because the fit doesn't look right on you. It's too baggy, or it's too tight, or it's too short, or it's too long. It really can impact your comfort, but it can also really impact your mood and how it makes you feel. And that to me is part of what clothing is all about, right? It's functional, it's protective, it protects us from the sun, from the elements, but it also is about our mood, right? And how do you feel when you wear something? Does it make you feel happy? Does it make you feel special? Does it make you feel good? Does it bring back good memories? So I really think that every company that I worked for taught me something. And I think that's a wonderful thing to be able to say, and a great question.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm a great researcher, and I followed you for a couple of months now, and we are very good friends on LinkedIn. And I've studied you, and yeah, we've gone far. So I that was how I just created up those questions for you to answer to the public, and you're doing amazingly well. So
Thank you.
how do you create? Yeah, yeah, you're definitely welcome. So how do you create content for your audience?
Yeah. So I have a couple of things that I do regularly that are sort of standard. So every Friday, I do something called LinkedIn Nuggets, which is just taking 6 things that I've seen my connections say in their own posts or comments that really resonated with me, that I think are special. And I post those in a post of my own. And then on Sunday, I do something called Four to Follow, which is where I take 4 people that are in my network that I think are really interesting. And I share those 4 people with my network. And the criteria for that is they have to be someone that I am first level connection with, and that puts out a lot of content, that puts out content regularly, so that if people follow them, they're actually seeing content from them. So those are 2 standard things that I do. And then I try to do, 1 or 2 posts a week about the fashion industry, especially about sustainability, because sustainability is really important to me. And I think it's something that people are really interested in, but don't necessarily know a lot about. And then I try to do, 1 or 2 posts a week about either, LinkedIn, something interesting about how LinkedIn works or about personal branding. And then something once or twice a week about leadership or mindset or, personal development. And then it fills up the week pretty quickly. It sounds daunting, but when it's broken down like that, it's actually just, 1 or 2 things on each topic. And a big suggestion I would make for people if they're going to post content regularly is to try to write some of it and pre-schedule it. LinkedIn has a scheduling tool. It's not the best, but it's functional. And so I'll try to pre-schedule a couple of posts a week at least, so that they're done and I don't have to worry about them, and they just go live on their own and I don't have to be thinking about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's amazing. That's really amazing. Whoa, you really touched the pain points, and thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. So, I want to ask you a question. What advice do you want to give to people that are looking up to you, especially on LinkedIn and in your industry? And do you connect with people that are off from your industry, like connected on LinkedIn? And that's amazing. I'm not in your niche, right? I'm a medical student, study geography, and I'm also a medical writer. So how do you, combine those connections that are off from your niche and or off from your industry? So tell us about that.
I think it's really important to connect with people who aren't in your industry, who aren't in your field. I think that's what makes life interesting, right? I wouldn't want all of my friends in real life to just be people that work in my industry. So I wouldn't want my connections on LinkedIn just to be in my industry. I think that's very like old school LinkedIn from, like 2015 or whatever. LinkedIn's been around. I just read recently that LinkedIn has been around for 20 years, right? So that would be 2003. I joined LinkedIn in 2008, but I didn't do very much with it. I sincerely didn't do almost anything until 2020. But back in the old days, LinkedIn was just a networking, job seeking resume kind of website. And it was
Yeah,
very
sure.
different than it is today, right? And so that was the old advice, right? Connect with people in your industry so when you need a job, you can ask for help. It's not what it is today. Yes, it's still a job seeking site. Yes, it's still a networking site. Yes, you can still 1,000% find your next role there. Recruiters are still very active there, but it's also just a site to meet people and to learn, right? I've made comments, and I mean this sincerely. I think LinkedIn is the world's greatest free education if you look at it that way. If you're open minded and you're curious and you connect with different people, everyone has something to say, right? I can learn something from anybody, because everybody has something of value to share if you're willing to listen. So I absolutely say connect with people from outside of your industry. Life is interesting that way, right? Different industries, different countries, different backgrounds, different cultures. That's what makes it fun. I don't want to just connect with fashion people. I see them all day long.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Connecting with people up from your industry can also open doors for you too. That's the
Absolutely.
key, working. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, do you have a book on about your industry? Have you written a book recently?
About my industry. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, there are definitely quite a few. There is it's sort of an unusual book. It's a little bit niche, but I have a very good
Oh,
friend. His name is Mostafiz Udin. I hope I did not mispronounce that. And he is Bangladeshi, and he runs a denim factory in Bangladesh. And he has a book called Bangladesh Stories, and it's about the industry in Bangladesh. And that's really fascinating. I also really enjoyed, his name is going right out of my head because it's early in the morning. He was the editor, one of the editors of Vogue. It was his memoir about growing up in the South in the U.S. As soon as we're done with this call, I'm going to remember his name and I'm going to shout it out. Um,
yeah.
Andre Leon Talley. So it's
Okay.
his memoir about growing up in the South and his sort of rise through the fashion industry, which was really, really interesting. There's a lot of really great books about the industry. I mean, everybody thinks of The Devil Wears Prada, right? But
Yeah,
there's books that will really talk about the people in the industry, and the experiences that they've had. It's a fascinating industry. There's a lot of good, some not so good, and hopefully we're all just trying to make it better.
absolutely, absolutely. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I love the fact that you're giving us some recommendations about, books for the audience to search for. And we're gonna put all those links in the below button on YouTube.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, sure, sure. So, how do you think someone can work on his mindset? What we have to say about that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you ask me that again? You broke up for a minute.
Okay, I'm talking about the mindset. How do one work on his mindset?
Mindset in general.
Yeah, in general.
I think, make it a focus, right? Make it a priority. Decide that you want to shift or that you want to work on something, right? Something I've spoken about a lot recently on LinkedIn is this idea of an abundance mindset as opposed to a scarcity mindset, right? I think it's natural sometimes, human nature sometimes, to have this scarcity mindset, right? To think that I have to hold on to this thing that I have. And if I let somebody else in or I share it with anybody else, they're going to take it from me and I'm not going to have it anymore. And I don't think that that mindset serves us, right? I actually think it's the opposite. I think that there's enough of everything to go around, and that when we let people in and we share things, we share knowledge, we share information, we share access, it actually just grows and it comes back to us, right? Like one of my very favorite quotes ever, there's a very famous American fashion designer. Her name's Diane von Furstenberg. So her brand is like, that's her brand, but it's also known by her initials, DVF. And I went to hear her speak once, and something that she said really stuck with me, which is kindness is a boomerang and it always comes back to you. And that's how I feel, truly. Kindness, empathy, sharing, it comes back. When you give, you get. And I think if we kind of keep that mindset and keep it top of mind, um, it becomes practice, right? It's difficult at first, and then the more you do it, the easier it gets. And I think another really important thing is just to be present. We're always so distracted, right? There's so many distractions in our lives. We're always looking at our phones. We're always looking online. We're always trying to do different things at the same time and multitasking, and just try to be present and really absorb everything. What does it look like if you're eating? Like what taste is it? How does it smell? How does it feel? Is it hot? Is it cold? There's so many things that we don't really give our full attention to. And I think by being more present in what we're doing, it really helps our mindset.
Absolutely. Great. Great explanation. Whoa, Melissa, you've been an amazing guest speaker today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so I have another question for you. I love the fact that you're focused on strategic, sourcing, right? So what advice do you want to give to someone to be more strategic, and also more certain in the various industries?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously look at it from a fashion perspective, right? And so, like, strategic sourcing for the apparel industry is, looking at what's going on in the world, what geopolitical issues are happening that could impact production. Are there any, governmental issues? Are there any labor issues? Are there any? So, like, for instance, right now, China, there's an additional tariff on goods, which is like a tax basically, coming into the US from China. There's also, different concerns about labor in different countries. There's things to
Yeah.
consider, such as lead times, right? If you're shipping to the US and you need something quickly, you might want to manufacture it closer to the US, right? Because if you're manufacturing it in Asia, it probably takes 30 to 40 days to get it here on a boat. And airing something is quite expensive, right? So maybe you can make it closer, which is also, good from a more eco-friendly sort of standpoint, right? Smaller carbon footprint if it's traveling less amount of time. So these are all things to consider. So I think in any industry, we can think more strategically just by thinking about all the variables that go into something, right? The inputs, the outputs, what risks are there, right? Like doing that SWOT analysis, right? What are your risks? What are your challenges? What are your opportunities? I think can really apply anywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you so much. I'm really happy that you helped on, and spoke really well to the audience. I believe that, this discussion will definitely resonate with the audience, really.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you so much.
appreciate that.
Um,
Yeah.
sure, sure. So, if you like this content, do well to subscribe, share, like and share to your network. Who knows, you can touch a soul from this video. So, Melissa, what's your last word for the audience?
Oh my gosh, my last word. Do something good today. Do something kind for someone. Spread kindness, and it is a boomerang. It'll come right back to you.
Absolutely, that summarizes everything, everything. So, thank you so much, Melissa, for hopping in. Thank you so much for adding value. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Can stop recording.